Good afternoon. I'm on my way to the first shoot of 2026. We'll be near Long Beach on the southern Washington coast, where there's a forecast of big waves and high surf. I'm hoping to get some of those waves crashing around Cape Disappointment, and hopefully the results won't be disappointing. So come on along. When I speak of projections for great waves and surf, I'm working off an app known as Surfline. See here. It's mainly intended for surfers, but it can also be used for landscape photographers. It requires a subscription, but you can get a free subscription that will use everything you'll be looking for here. And now I'll show you how to use it. As you can see, I've got it set to Cape Disappointment State Park. I'm going to go to the forecast for the 7th here, which you can see down here. Now, ignore the fact that it says poor, that's surf conditions, but look at the swell numbers under there. You got 14.3 feet in 12 seconds, and that's really good. You want swells over 10 feet and somewhere in the low to mid 10 seconds space. And also you've got 11 knots wind from the west, so it's coming onshore. An onshore wind will increase the ability to get good waves. And as you see, going further on to 3 p.m., we've got much the same conditions. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Welcome here from a very windy and wet Cape Disappointment. I'm at Waikiki Beach, which is obviously not the one in Hawaii, and we're currently watching the waves against the lighthouse head here. Now what I'm doing here is basically shooting this more as a wildlife composition than a landscape one, because it so much changes so fast. So what I have is set up, I've got it on a very high shutter speed as best I can, and at this point it's, because it's starting to dim, it's down to about 200th of a second, but that's still good enough. And f5.6, which would be definitely enough depth of field for this distance. And I'm trying to make sure the ISO just stays at 4,000 or lower, so I don't have too much problem with noise. But it's just really a matter of sitting here and watching for the waves to come in, and then firing off a whole bunch of shots in a row, and then picking the ones that wind up looking the best. Now I'm under an umbrella here, mainly because this particular pocket cam that I'm using to record on is not weather sealed, so I'm going to be careful. But at the moment, there's a little bit of lightning and clouds in the sky over there, so I'm hoping that in a short while the sun will get a bit far enough down so we can actually get a bit more sunset light here. Otherwise, I'm going to be back here tomorrow morning, and we'll see what happens there. Well, I obviously decided not to go back the next day, because frankly, after about an hour's shooting, I had a completely full memory card and had managed to get a time lapse that I'm going to be using in this video. So that's about 480 shots taken a second apart. And frankly, the light was so good that I kept thinking it's probably not going to be any better the next day, so staying around wouldn't really help much. So I'm done with all that, and now I have a lot of images. As you can see, the import here is 1,465 images. So how do I get that down to a reasonable number? I can't keep that many 61 megapixel images on my system. So what I'm going to do now is go up to the previous import tab, which means I'm no longer looking at all the images I have, just the ones in the previous import, so all that day, which, as you can see, there are a lot of them. So what I'm going to do is click on all, hit stacking down here, and when they have a new thing called auto stack by capture time, and that will give you a time between stacks that you can have. It would be any shots taken within 10 seconds of each other are going to be stacked together. Now, that's really not a fair way of doing it, because the fact is I did a lot of shots with more than with less than 10 seconds between them. So at this point, what I'm looking at is something that will keep the stacks I shot together and not merge things that don't have them. So I'm going to take this down to 2 seconds because 1 second was the distance between the time-lapse issues. And so it should give you a much better view of things. So there we are. And as you look at this, you can see there are a whole bunch of stacks. Maybe some of these that are very small numbers, like the number 3 here, were not really intended as stacks, but most of these were, as you see, 46, 41, and so on. Now down here is the 480 shot stack. That's the time lapse. So that one I want to keep at all costs. But I want to first stack all these. And now I'm going to go to the time lapse because, like I said, I want to keep all of these. So I'm going to open the stack, and at this point I'm going to pick all 480 of these shots. I'm going to, so I'll give them a 1-star rating. So that means I'm going to be keeping them. Now once I'm done with that, I'm going to go to each of these stacks here and look at them as a whole unit. And as you'll notice, a few of these look more dramatic than the others. So those are the ones I'm going to want to keep. For example, the first maybe 4 of these look good. So I keep those. This one here might be interesting, I'm not sure. So I'll probably keep this, a couple of these too anyway here. And then I'm going to mark all these. I'm going to go through every stack. And once these are done, I'm going to go back and look at all the ones that are not starred. And I'm going to be basically deleting all those, and I should have this cut down to a reasonably good margin by the end. Okay, so now I've gone through the entire list of photos. In some cases, I used every image from a stack, some no images from a stack, and pretty much most of them I just had a few of them picked out. Now what I'm going to do over here is go to the previous import. I'm going to expand all stacks, just right over here. Now I'm going to do is go to the attributes and pick the choice for attributes being a rating of less than or equal to 0. That takes out all the 1-star images. And at this point I have, how many? About 473 that I do not need at this point. So I just simply select all of them, click delete, and now we're going to wind up with a much smaller number of images to process. Granted, taking it down from about 1465 to 992 may not seem like the most culling possible, but it seems to work well for this point. Now I can take off the 1-stars and everything because at this point I'm going to be starting to rank them all over again. I'm going to be going in here to the stacking, collapse all stacks, and now I should have a number of stacks to work with. And the beauty of this right now is that since each of these stacks were taken just a few seconds apart from each other, the odds are that I could just do a simple profile. Right now I'm using the linear profile on these, and I'm going to be doing the steps to do a custom profile for each set of shots, but it's really therefore a matter of just processing one of them and then copying those settings to the next ones. So at that point it'll become much easier to start culling things. And the results will be coming up right now, and I hope you enjoy them. See you next time. Bye.